Hello everyone, welcome back to the Artless Dialogue, and this is our second episode of reviewing CVs. And here's another CV a subscriber sent to us, and we're going to get right into it. I'm going to start off with the layout, format, and design as usual, and Ash will dive into the content later on. So, Ash, let me know when you can see this CV.
Yep, got it. Brilliant, thank you.
Perfect. So, looking at the CV, the first thing that jumps up to me is, well, this black dot used to be a picture, which I made black to anonymize. There's a lot of, let's say, conflict among whether there should be a picture in the CV or not. But I think it's safer to not have a picture on the CV because you want your work to set your first impression instead of what you're wearing or how you look or anything like that. Ash, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely kind of a trend towards anonymizing CVs when it comes to names, and most HR sort of in large organizations will anonymize a CV anyway.
Yeah.
So they'll definitely remove any pictures, names, age, all of that, just to give a fair representation of a CV review.
I didn't know
Um,
that.
Yeah, most big organisations, certainly in the UK anyway, are starting to do that now because in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space, it's to remove any unconscious bias.
Hmm.
So if you get a CV from a certain type of diverse individual, it's how do you prevent your instinctive bias? So yeah, I think the less personal information in terms of that sort of stuff, I think probably the better.
Sounds good. Perfect. The second thing I noticed is that the CV has CV has two pages. How could I miss that? I feel that a CV should be one page because the reviewer doesn't have a lot of time. He has to look at hundreds of CVs, tens of CVs, and two pages just sometimes it feels like you're putting in stuff that doesn't need to be there. For example, languages, not very important uh, to selling yourself, I believe, unless it's specific to the role, unless the role asks for a person who can speak Urdu or Punjabi or Spanish or French or whatever. But in this case, otherwise, I think you can skip out languages. Uh, Similarly, another thing I noticed was that this CV has two columns. Now, depending on how you display your experiences, two columns can work. But in this case, I feel they're a little confusing because the headings for me aren't as clear as the work experiences. For example, this is education, and then this is work experience right on top. And I'm not sure whether to go from this experience to right or down. And I feel that's a little bit confusing, and that confusion could be solved if two columns were avoided. The other thing I noticed was that Yeah, sorry. The other thing I noticed was that if you look at projects and achievements at the bottom, most of these projects and achievements, they're related to your education or your work experience. So I believe these things should be in those sections instead of using extra vital real estate for repeating things or putting them away because it'll be harder to find. Um, and then if I think that's pretty much it from me on the layout and design part. Ash, do you have anything to add?
I completely agree. I mean, I love that real estate. That's a brilliant way of looking at it. So because it pretty much is, and it's kind of what we said before here. When you're looking at a CV, firstly, the personal sort of statement at the top has to be impactful and engaging. Um, and when you look at that, I always say don't write anything you would ever write the opposite of. For example, believes in determination. Well, wait, who doesn't? Right. So you never make a statement you're never going to make the opposite of. Because that suggests there's someone sitting out there who goes, "I don't believe in determination; it doesn't exist. It's a mystery." Hard work and integrity. Right. Again, who isn't going to believe in all of that? empowers others, works well in a team environment that leads to development of the organization and personal upgrowth. Again, it's kind of a throwaway statement that's really vanilla that you're never going to say the opposite of. So why say it? And so it's got to be, when we say a personal statement, it's back to that. Has got to be your elevator pitch. It's got to be personal to you. What makes you unique compared to others? What have you done that's going to make you stand out compared to others? Now, I don't know what kind of roles this individual would be applying for, but again, make that personal statement relevant. What kind of industry you're applying for, what kind of roles are you applying for? Therefore, that personal statement should have something in there which suggests that this is an area you've got some kind of passion, interest in. So I think that's that. And then you're right, the structure is a little bit confusing. So there's a lot of space used up, and in a kind of hodgepodge way a little bit, so it becomes a little bit difficult to read. And then you're quite right, achievement is stuck right at the end on top of page 2 for some reason, and then it's just, even the achievement is just a list of stuff that there's no context to anyway, so you kind of wasted that space anyway. The interests, we've randomly put a box around it and then listed out some hobbies, and again, it's just difficult. It's just a list of things I enjoy doing. But you put it in a box and you put it as the last thing on the page. So you kind of almost say, I don't really care. I'm not really interested. So don't read it. So it's just think about, we said it, I think, on the previous CV, just think about what the CV is. The CV is there to get you an interview. And so it's got to be targeted towards that. So don't include any information that's not going to be relevant to that. Don't include any information they're not going to be interested in, or you're not particularly interested in, as per, I'm going to stick it at the bottom of my CV for some reason. So yes, I think that's probably the structure part. And I think I've said this before, your work experience is the most relevant thing. So, get rid of that second column, and your work experience should be across that. So your most recent role, specialist CRM operations, back to the way the structure should be is a higher level, 2 sentences. What was your role? Be very clear. My role was the following, 2 sentences. So everyone's get very clear what that role is. So there's no dubiety, no confusion. And then it should be key achievement. What's the one thing you are proud of? And build that out as a star, i.e. give scale, give complexity, give importance, etc. And then to your point, some of the achievements, some of the projects type stuff should be plugged into there. So if, and it's hard to then align what's in the project stuff to the job, because I can't tell which job you did those things in. Yep. And I can't tell which achievements relate to which job. Now, I see you've helpfully highlighted it, where, in the assistant manager, accounts and finance, the second bullet point, invoiced a subsidiary for 125 million and resolved pending issues since 2021. So, I mean, I'm not an accountant, but even then, that still doesn't particularly make a lot of sense. So, why was that a key achievement? Right? Why was that difficult to achieve? What made it, complex? What made it an achievement? That might be BAU, your day job. That might be being expected of you. But actually, what did you overcome to get that? So write it as achievement at the beginning if that's the thing you're most proud of. But at the moment, it's a second bullet point of a role, and then it's randomly a key achievement at the bottom. So I think just structure-wise, yeah.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was saying, and so structure-wise, I think I would structure your work experience, move all your education down, and get rid of the project section, and get rid of your achievement section, and get rid of your languages section, and get rid of your interest section. So really, you should have a personal statement at the top, which incorporates your interests. I would then have your work experience with your top role, which says, here's my role, here's my responsibilities, here's my key achievement, and then 4 or 5 bullets as to some of the other things you did and what skills you portrayed and evidence through that. So you don't need that skills section. And then do that across the roles. So really, you could do that all in one page and completely delete the skills section, the project sections, the achievement sections, the language sections, the interest sections, because you've incorporated that into your roles. Because your skills section, again, the things that are in there, teamwork, right? Again, I always find that interesting when people do that, right? Yeah, of course, you're not going to say I'm horrific at teamwork. Effective time management. Yeah, what does that mean? You might have effective time management that you turn up to work on time, but if you're suddenly applying for a senior manager role in a large organization where you're managing multiple priorities, well, that's not evidencing anything because none of this stuff has context. It's just a list of stuff. Now, the only reason it becomes contextualized is if you put it in your work experience under your key achievements. For example, that one we've got there, the achievement at the moment, invoice a subsidiary for 125 million. Right, what made it complicated? Right, what made it important? It was important because we were on limited time. We had finite time. We were behind the curve on it. If we didn't pull out all the stops, we would have lost a client or potentially lost the organization money. Right, what made it a key achievement? The skills I was able to apply, which included some of those skills. It was stakeholder management. It was, effective time management. I was able to do 120% of the work in 100% of the time. How? Because I did X, Y, and Z. So it suddenly becomes the skills come to life. Your achievement comes to life. And suddenly someone reading the CV can see that and understand and contextualize what you did and why you did it. It makes your CV so much cleaner because I'm reading the roles. I'm understanding what you've done. And understanding the scale of what you've done. I then don't need a list of skills without context. I don't need a random list of projects. I don't need a random list of achievements, etc., because that all disappears. And then as a reader, I'm getting all the information I need to make a decision. Now, the decision still might be that, you're not the right person, but that's not because you didn't inform the recruiter enough. It's because your skills weren't quite there. Rather than the reason you didn't get the interview was because they didn't understand what you've done. They didn't understand the scale of what you've done. They didn't understand your relevant experience. And that's not a place you want to be.
I think that's quite a good point. So for example, let's take the same invoice to subsidy for 125 million. If this person was to write led conflict resolution with 3 external stakeholders, to save 125 million PKR of the company's profits or sales or whatever, that shows that you know how to manage conflicts, you know how to manage multiple external stakeholders, and then you ended up saving the company money. Is that what you mean by showcase your skills in content?
Exactly, because you're then saying you've got good negotiation skills. You've evidenced their strong communication skills. You've evidenced your ability to talk to senior stakeholders, and was that, and back to kind of scale. So over what time period was that? So you're able to then show, sustainability. What preparation, organization did you have to do going into that negotiation? So that shows effective time management. It shows that you're organized. It shows that you might be able to use data. So it's contextualizing your skills in situ and bringing your examples to life in your CV. So as an individual reading it, and I think even just as you said, that, I did, negotiations, conflict negotiations with 3 other people, you can immediately picture someone in a room with 3 other people. Right. So you've immediately, just by that sentence, I've contextualized it beyond what it is right now. Right. So I'm now picturing a person in a room with 3 other people having a shouting match at each other. And there's £125 million check on the table that could go if we're not careful.
Sounds like a movie. Now,
it sounds like a movie, doesn't it? But that's exactly, your spot on, Sal. It's contextualizing. It's building pictures. And if you don't do that, then what you've done is you've just listed a load of tasks that you did without context. And we're back to you're relying on a CV reader and a recruiter to plug the gaps for you, and never a place where you want to be, where you're relying on the CV reader to fill the gaps for you because they've got better things to do, i.e. 100 other CVs to look at.
Perfect. I think that's quite good. We gave a few examples as well, and I'm gonna say what I say in every episode. Ash, I am terrified. I'm not gonna show you my CV. This is not gonna happen.
We'll do your
ever.
CV next
Even
week.
if I need to, it's just not gonna happen. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And if you want similar content, check out our other videos.